Hi, I'm Maya. My sister once called me invisible, the kind of girl who fades into wallpaper, the kind teachers forget to call on in class. Then she had her boyfriend break my arm while she filmed it laughing, and when I came home in tears, my parents told me to stop overreacting to a silly accident, but I didn't disappear. I learned to stand my ground, and when they saw what I did next, they couldn't stop screaming. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Before we begin, drop a comment below with what time you're watching and where you're from. This story isn't about revenge, it's about what happens when someone invisible finally decides to be seen. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, it comes from being erased day by day, name by name, photo by photo. That was my life at Westlake High School. Most people didn't notice me. I wasn't bullied exactly, I wasn't celebrated either. I was convenient silence. Teachers called me dependable but forgettable. The guidance counselor once told me, Maya, you're like the school's safety net, always there when needed, never noticed otherwise. What they didn't realize was how often safety nets tear under too much pressure. I walked the halls like a ghost people had grown used to ignoring. I carried my journal everywhere, not because I wanted to document my life, but because writing gave me a voice when my actual voice went unheard. I was always in the background, never in the spotlight. Then there was Vanessa. She wasn't just my sister, she was a force of nature. Everyone in her orbit seemed to shine brighter, laugh louder, achieve more. It wasn't that she hated me, no, Vanessa simply acted like I was an afterthought, and everyone else followed her example. That morning, walking through the West Corridor, I noticed her before she noticed me, strutting with her usual entourage. Their voices bounced off the lockers like an annoying song on repeat. She's the one who got early acceptance to Princeton and still has time to organize the charity fundraiser. I heard a sophomore whisper, that's Vanessa Reyes, she basically runs this place. Not one glance in my direction, not a flicker of recognition. Later that day we were called to the main auditorium for the spring awards ceremony. I sat halfway back, close enough to hear but far enough to remain unnoticed. They read out names, applauded politely, then came the principal's voice, we also want to congratulate Vanessa Reyes for her outstanding contributions to student government debate team and community outreach. She stood up like she was born for the spotlight, took the microphone, smiled brilliantly, and then she said it. Oh, and to my sister Maya, thanks for always being my biggest supporter and for being my personal assistant all these years. She's basically invisible but super useful when you need something done. Laughter, not just from students, from teachers, from parents. I didn't move. My hands gripped the armrests so tightly my knuckles turned white, my throat closed up. The laughter didn't fade quickly, it stretched awkwardly like everyone was waiting for the next joke. I wasn't in that auditorium anymore. I was 10 again, hiding in my bedroom because Vanessa told everyone at my birthday party that my dress was from the clearance rack. But this time I didn't run, I didn't cry, I just watched her soak up the applause, not even looking my way. That evening at dinner I thought maybe someone would mention it, not to apologize, just to acknowledge what happened. We sat at the dining table. My mom served lasagna, my dad checked his emails between bites. Vanessa arrived late, glowing from her many accolades. So proud of you, sweetie, Mom said, touching her hand. You were hilarious today, weren't you? Dad added, grinning, that comment about your sister priceless. I blinked. Priceless, he repeated, chuckling, you had everyone eating out of your hand. I didn't think it was funny, I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Come on Maya, don't be so sensitive, it was a compliment. Being invisible has its perks. My mother sighed, honey, it was just a joke, you take everything so personally. I opened my mouth, closed it again, the words stuck in my throat like glass. I took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, dried it, and said nothing. No one noticed me leave. Later that night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The light from the hallway spilled under my door like an unwelcome visitor. I remembered a Christmas years ago when I was 12. They wrapped up Vanessa's old phone and called it an upgrade. I smiled and said thank you like I was grateful. That was the same year I learned how to disappear on command. I'd thought that being quiet made things easier, that it somehow kept the peace, but maybe it didn't do anything. Maybe it just made me easier to ignore. The next afternoon I got to track practice early, too early. The field house was still empty. Except for the echo of the ventilation system. I liked the quiet until I didn't, because then I heard footsteps, and they didn't belong to any girl on the track team. They were heavy, confident, the kind that don't worry about making noise. I stopped mid-step, my fingers clutched my bag, my back pressed against the metal locker behind me. I couldn't breathe. The footsteps weren't just approaching, they were deliberate, certain, too loud to be any girl from the team. I stayed frozen, breath caught in my chest, hoping they'd turn around, that maybe they were lost and would laugh it off before leaving. But then I heard something clatter. Someone had kicked over a bench, the door closed behind them, and I knew before I saw them. Liam Walker's voice cut through the air, sharp and smug. Told you she'd be here early, girl's a creature of habit. He was followed by two others, both wore varsity jackets and expressions boys get when they think they own every space they enter. One of them cracked his knuckles and grinned like this was all a game. I reached for my bag, trying to keep my movements slow, non-threatening. Maybe if I acted normal they'd get bored and leave, but Liam stepped in front of me, blocking the path to the door. Leaving so soon? Vanessa says you've been acting too important lately, thought we'd help you remember your place. I didn't respond, I didn't look at him, that was a mistake. The taller boy to his right stepped closer, his shadow falling over me like a cold blanket. Liam leaned in. You don't belong here, he whispered, voice low, almost bored, and you definitely don't belong in her spotlight. I looked up finally, and for a second, just one, I thought I saw something behind his expression, hesitation, no, just calculation. Then it happened fast, he grabbed my wrist hard enough to make me gasp. I tried to pull away, he twisted my arm, there was a crack, the sound reached my ears before the pain did, sharp, blinding white, then heat. Something inside me screamed, but my voice was trapped. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My vision blurred as I dropped to my knees, cradling my arm that hung at an unnatural angle. I didn't scream, I didn't even whimper, I just folded in on myself as the pain radiated through my body like lightning. What happened next was worse. I heard Vanessa's laugh. She stepped out from behind the row of lockers, phone in hand, recording. Oh my god, your face right now, priceless, Maya. Her laughter mixed with Liam's as he draped his arm around her shoulder. Told you she wouldn't even fight back. They were still laughing as they left. The door slammed behind them. Time stopped, then crawled. I don't know how long I sat there. I don't know if I was shaking from shock or pain. My arm throbbed with each heartbeat. I couldn't even bring myself to cry. The next sound I heard was the squeak of sneakers, lighter this time, faster than a gasp. Maya. Olivia dropped her gym bag, sprinting the last few steps, and knelt beside me. What happened? Your arm. Oh my god, we need to call someone. She reached for her phone, but I touched her leg with my good hand. Just help me up, I whispered, please. She didn't argue, she helped me stand, supported my weight as we walked to her car, drove me to the emergency room, sat with me through the x-rays and the setting of the bone. A clean break, they said, 6 weeks in a cast. The doctor asked how it happened. I said I fell during practice. I saw the doubt in his eyes, but he didn't push, he just noted it in my chart and moved on. Olivia didn't leave my side, didn't ask questions, just held my hand when the pain medication wore off. That evening after being discharged, my parents picked me up from the hospital, confusion and concern battling on their faces. How could you be so careless during practice? My mother asked as we drove home. The insurance deductible is going to be a nightmare. My father sighed from behind the wheel. You need to be more careful, Maya, these accidents are expensive. I stared out the window, watching the streetlights blur together like stars, not trusting myself to speak. When we got home, Vanessa was in the living room, laptop open, textbooks spread around her like props in a play. She looked up briefly. Wow, that's quite the fashion statement, she said, nodding at my cast, then returned to her screen like nothing had happened. Later that night she came to my room without knocking, pushed the door open like it was her own space, like she hadn't orchestrated my pain. Just hours before she closed the door quietly and leaned against it. You're not going to say anything, right? Her voice was even practiced. I didn't respond. She tilted her head. You know how this works, you tell someone I deny it, Liam denies it, who do you think they'll believe? The perfect student heading to Princeton, or the invisible girl who's jealous of her sister? She paused, studying my face. Besides, it was an accident, they got carried away, that's all. No one meant for you to actually break anything. She left. Without waiting for an answer, just turned and walked out. I stayed in bed, one hand clutching my journal, not for comfort, just to feel something real. The silence in that moment hurt more than my broken bone, because I knew then she planned it. Hadn't been random. She wanted to make sure I stayed where I belonged, in her shadow, useful when needed, invisible when not. The next morning I pulled on a hoodie, struggled to dress myself with one arm functioning properly, each movement sending pain signals through my body. At breakfast, Mom helped me butter my toast, the first kindness in what felt like years, maybe. You should stay home today, she said, almost gentle. I nodded, grateful for the reprieve. Alone in the quiet house, I sat at my desk, journal open, the blank page staring back at me. I began to write, not about the pain, not about Vanessa, but about invisibility, about how being unseen had become my armor and my prison. By the time I filled 10 pages, my hand ached almost as much as my arm, but something had shifted inside me, like a lock turning or a door opening. I wasn't writing about disappearing anymore, I was writing about being seen. The next day I returned to school, arm in cast, hoodie pulled low, conversation stopped as I passed, whispers followed like shadows. Heard she fell during practice, what a klutz. Someone snickered. I kept walking, head down but eyes alert. In third period English, Mr. Bennett asked if I needed help taking notes. I shook my head. I can manage, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. Olivia slid into the seat next to me, breaking her usual pattern, passing me a folded note. It read, I don't believe you fell. I tucked it into my pocket, said nothing. During lunch I sat alone as usual, my tray balanced awkwardly as I tried to eat one-handed. Then Vanessa entered the cafeteria, Liam at her side, his arm draped possessively around her shoulder. They were laughing. His eyes caught mine across the room, and he whispered something in her ear. They laughed harder. I looked down at my untouched food, my stomach nodding. The room suddenly too loud, too bright, too much. I left my tray, abandoned my food barely touched, and walked to the library, the only place that still felt safe. The librarian, Mrs. Chen, looked up as I entered, her eyes falling on my cast. Maya, what happened? Her voice held genuine concern. Something I'd almost forgotten existed. Accident during practice, I said, the lie tasting bitter. She frowned but didn't press. Well, you're welcome to sit in the back corner, it's quiet there. I thanked her and made my way to the secluded study. Carrels tucked between tall shelves. I wasn't planning to stay long, just needed somewhere to breathe, somewhere Vanessa and Liam wouldn't follow. I was flipping through a book, not really reading, when I overheard two boys talking in the next aisle, their voices low but clear. Dude, did you see that video Liam's showing everyone? One asked. Yeah man, that's messed up even for him, the other replied. Recording someone getting hurt like that? I froze, my fingers still resting on the page. My heart stuttered in my chest. Vanessa's the one who filmed it, right? The first voice continued. Her own sister, that's cold. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Yeah, but they're saying she fell during practice, the second boy said. No one's gonna believe she got her arm broken on purpose. They moved away, their voices fading toward the front desk, but I remained still processing what I'd heard. There was a video they were showing, people laughing at my pain. That evening I sat at my computer screen, glowing in the darkness of my bedroom. I typed, Westlake High School bullying policy, into the search bar. The results populated quickly, official-sounding phrases about zero tolerance and safe environments. Words that meant nothing when Liam's hands were twisting my arm when Vanessa was filming. Instead of stopping him, I clicked through page after page, reading about reporting procedures and witness statements until my eyes burned. I opened a new document and began typing. This is what happened to me. The cursor blinked after the words like a heartbeat. I didn't know who would believe me. I didn't know if anyone would care, but I knew silence wasn't protecting me anymore. I kept typing, detailing everything from Vanessa's comments at the assembly to Liam's attack to the video they were now sharing. I included dates, times, locations, the names of anyone who might have seen anything. When I finished, it was past midnight. My broken arm throbbed beneath the cast, but the document was complete. 3 pages single-spaced, my truth laid bare. The next morning I printed the document, folded it carefully and placed it in my bag. I didn't know yet what I would do with it, but carrying it felt like carrying a shield, something to protect me from the whispers and stares that followed me through the hallways. During second period I asked to go to the bathroom, wandering instead toward the administration wing. I paused outside Principal Wagner's office, the document heavy in my pocket, my courage wavering. Then I heard them, Vanessa's laugh. Unmistakable even through closed doors, Liam's voice responding. I stepped closer, pressed myself against the wall beside the partially open door and listened. The fundraiser is coming together beautifully, Mr. Wagner, Vanessa was saying, her voice honeyed, practiced. We've already raised almost $5,000 for children's literacy. Principal Wagner's response was warm, approving. That's fantastic, Vanessa, you continue to impress me. Liam, you're lucky to have such an accomplished girlfriend. I peeked through the crack in the door, watching as Liam nodded, all charm and false modesty, his arm, the same one that broke mine, now draped casually over a chair. We're thinking of expanding the fundraiser to include a talent show, he added. More student involvement that way. Principal Wagner nodded, impressed. You two are exactly what this school needs, leaders with vision. I backed away quietly, my hands shaking, the document burning in my pocket. They weren't just popular, they were protected, championed by the administration itself. Who would believe me against them? I returned to class, said nothing, completed my assignments, one-handed, struggled through the day like I was moving underwater, everything muffled, distant, unreal. After school I walked home alone, the spring air unusually cold against my skin, or maybe it was just me growing colder from the inside out. At home I went straight to my room, closed the door, sat on the edge of my bed and stared at nothing. I pulled out the document, read it again word by word, then folded it and tucked it beneath my mattress, not throwing it away, not yet, but not ready to show it either. I was trapped between silence and screaming with no middle ground in sight. That night sleep wouldn't come. I lay awake watching shadows crawl across my ceiling, listening to the house settle around me, the occasional creak of floorboards, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the sound of my parents' television, then footsteps passing my door, Vanessa returning from somewhere. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, an unknown number. I hesitated, then opened the message. I saw what they did to you, I have the video. My heart stopped, then raced. I didn't recognize the number, didn't know if this was a trap or salvation. I typed back with one hand, awkward, slow, who is this? The response came quickly, someone who's tired of watching them hurt people. Liam sent the video to his friends, I got a copy. Another message followed, meet me tomorrow before school behind the gymnasium if you want it. I stared at the screen for a long time, my mind racing with possibilities. What if this was just another trick? What if Vanessa and Liam were setting me up again? But what if it wasn't? What if someone else had decided enough was enough? I finally replied, I'll be there, then deleted the conversation, buried my phone under my pillow and tried to sleep. Morning came too quickly and not quickly enough. I dressed carefully, struggling with buttons and zippers with one functioning arm, ate breakfast in silence, avoided Vanessa's eyes as she chattered about college applications and summer internships. I left early, claiming a study group. My mother barely looked up from her coffee. The walk to school felt longer than usual, each step heavy with uncertainty, the morning air crisp against my face, the cast on my arm a constant reminder of what was at stake. Behind the gymnasium the grounds were empty, dew still clinging to the Grass the sun barely cresting the horizon. I checked my phone, no new messages, waited shifting my weight from foot to foot wondering if I'd been played for a fool. Then a figure emerged from around the corner, slight, hesitant, familiar. It took me a moment to recognize her. Jamie Chen, Mrs. Chen's daughter, a sophomore, quiet, studious, someone I'd barely noticed before, just as invisible as I was. She approached. Slowly looking around, nervously clutching her phone. Maya? Her voice was soft, uncertain. I nodded. She glanced over her shoulder before continuing. I have it, the video Liam's been showing everyone. I thought you should see it. She held out her phone screen facing me. I took it with my good hand pressed. Play, my stomach dropping as the footage began. Liam grabbing my wrist, the twist, the crack, my face contorting in pain. Vanessa's laughter clear as she narrated. Look at her face, oh my god, she's not even fighting back, such a doormat. I watched it all the way through, twice, my hand shaking by the second viewing. Jamie looked at me with something like recognition in her eyes. They did something similar to my brother last year, different but the same, if that makes sense. He transferred schools afterward, couldn't take it anymore. I handed her phone back. Why are you helping me? I asked. She looked down at her shoes. Because someone should, because they keep getting away with it, because I'm tired of being scared. I nodded, understanding perfectly. Thank you, I said. Quietly, can you send this to me? She nodded, transferred the file to my phone, then hesitated. What are you going to do with it? I looked at the school building looming behind us, students beginning to arrive in 2s and 3s. I don't know yet, I answered honestly, but something. She nodded again, turned to leave, then paused. Be careful, they have friends everywhere. Then she was gone, slipping back into the crowd, becoming invisible again. Throughout the day the video burned in my phone like a live coal. I couldn't focus. Couldn't participate, could barely breathe. All I could hear was Vanessa's laughter. All I could feel was Liam's hands on my arm. All I could see was my own face crumpling in pain. By lunch period I'd made a decision. I couldn't go to Principal Wagner. He was firmly in their corner. I couldn't tell my parents. They'd already dismissed my broken arm as clumsiness. I needed someone with actual authority, someone outside the school's ecosystem. During my free period I walked to the public library 3 blocks from school, sat at a computer in the far corner and researched local news outlets, police procedures, school board contacts, the Title IX coordinator for our district. I made lists. Careful notes with my non-dominant hand, the writing messy but legible. When I finished I had a plan, not perfect, not guaranteed, but a path forward. The librarian watched me curiously as I printed several pages but said nothing as I gathered them with my good hand, tucked them into my bag and left. Walking home that afternoon I felt different, not stronger exactly but more solid, like I was taking up space I was entitled to. The air around me seemed clearer, the colors brighter, as if I'd been seeing everything through fog. Before I stopped at the corner store, bought a soda, sat on a bench in the small park across from our house and watched the world move around me. For once I didn't feel invisible, I felt like I was waiting my turn to be seen. That evening at dinner Vanessa was talking about her college visit to Princeton, how the admissions officer had practically guaranteed her acceptance, how she was already being courted for their debate team. My parents hanging on every word, pride shining in their eyes. We always knew you were destined for greatness, my father said, raising his glass to our future Ivy Leaguer. They clinked glasses, Vanessa beaming. I pushed food around my plate, my cast making eating awkward. What about you, Maya? My mother asked suddenly, as if remembering I existed. Have you thought about where you'll apply next year? I looked up, surprised by the question. I have some ideas, I said carefully. I've been researching journalism programs. Vanessa laughed, not even trying to hide her derision. Journalism? Really? That's a dying field. Besides, you barely speak up in class. How would you interview anyone? My father chuckled. She has a point, Maya. Maybe something more behind the scenes would suit you better. I set down my fork, looked at each of them in turn. Actually, I think finding and telling the truth is exactly what I'm meant to do. Something in my tone made Vanessa's smile falter just for a second before she recovered. Well, good luck with that invisible girl. She turned back to our parents, continued her Princeton story as if I hadn't spoken. I finished my dinner in silence, but this time the silence wasn't defeat, it was patience. Later that night I sat cross-legged on my bed, the documents from the library spread around me, the video queued on my phone ready to play. I picked up one sheet of paper, reading the name again, District Superintendent Dr. Eleanor Martinez. According to my research, she had implemented a strict anti-bullying policy across all schools in the district, had a reputation for taking student complaints seriously, had even removed a principal 2 years ago for failing to address harassment claims. I opened my laptop, drafted an email, subject line, urgent, physical assault and ongoing harassment at Westlake High. Body, Dear Dr. Martinez, I am writing to report a serious incident of physical assault that occurred on school grounds. I attached the video, detailed the history of my sister's behavior, described the school's failure to provide a safe environment, and requested a meeting. I read it over twice, corrected typos, added details. My finger hovered over the send button for a full minute before I finally pressed it. The moment I sent the email, something settled in me, not relief, not exactly, but certainty. I was done being invisible, done being silent, done being the blur in someone else's story. I closed my laptop, set it aside, and for the first time in weeks slept without dreaming. The next morning my phone buzzed with a notification, a new email from Dr. Martinez's office confirming receipt of my message and requesting a meeting that afternoon at the district administration building. My heart didn't race, it steadied like finding solid ground after months of shifting sand. I dressed carefully that morning, choosing a bright blue sweater instead of my usual muted colors, struggled with the buttons one-handed but refused help when my mother offered. "I can do it myself," I said, not harshly but firmly. She looked surprised but stepped back. At breakfast Vanessa breezed in late as usual. "Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect life. Mom, I need you to sign this permission slip for the Princeton overnight visit," she said, sliding a paper across the table. My mother signed without reading it. "So proud of you, sweetie," she murmured. I ate my toast in silence, watching them interact like always but seeing it differently now, not as someone excluded but as someone choosing to step away. Before leaving I paused in the doorway. "I'll be late today," I announced, my voice stronger than usual. "Meeting with a counselor about college applications." My mother nodded absently. Vanessa didn't even look up. I walked to school alone, the spring air cool against my face, the weight of my backpack awkward against my good shoulder, but I didn't mind the discomfort. It reminded me I was still here, still moving forward. The school day crawled by, each class an exercise in patience as I watched the clock, teachers' voices fading into background noise as I rehearsed what I would say to Dr. Martinez, how I would present my case without emotion clouding the facts. At lunch I sat with Olivia for the first time instead of alone. She looked surprised but pleased, sliding over to make room. "How's the arm?" she asked, nodding at my cast. "Still broken," I replied with a small smile, "but I'm not." She tilted her head, curious, but didn't press. The bell rang before she could ask more questions and we separated for afternoon classes. In history Mr. Kennedy called on me unexpectedly. "Maya, what do you think about the impact of silent protest as a form of resistance?" For a moment I froze, used to being asked my opinion, but then something shifted. "I think silence only works when people are paying attention," I said, "otherwise it's just erasure." He nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting perspective, can you elaborate?" I sat up straighter, felt the eyes of my classmates. "Martin Luther King said that what's more tragic than the strident voice of the bad people is the appalling silence of the good people. Sometimes breaking that silence is the only way to create change." The room was quiet for a moment. Mr. Kennedy smiled. "Well said, Maya." After last period I slipped out a side entrance, avoiding the main hallways where Vanessa and Liam held court. The walk to the district offices took 20 minutes each step, bringing me closer to a moment I couldn't take back. The administration building was imposing, 3 stories of glass and brick with an American flag fluttering outside. I checked in at the front desk, my voice only wavering slightly as I gave my name. The receptionist directed me to the 3rd floor. Dr. Eleanor Martinez was not what I expected, tall with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. No nonsense, but not unkind. She stood as I entered, gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Maya Reyes, thank you for coming, please sit down." I settled into the chair, my cast resting awkwardly in my lap, unsure how to begin. "She saved me the trouble. I watched the video you sent," she said directly, "and I read your email twice. Tell me anything else you think I should know." The directness was refreshing. No platitudes, no dismissal, just a request for information. So I told her everything from Vanessa's comments at the assembly to Liam's attack to the school's indifference to my parents' dismissal. I spoke clearly, calmly, the facts presented without dramatic flourish. Dr. Martinez took notes, occasionally nodding, asking clarifying questions. When I finished she set down her pen. "This is a serious matter," she said. "Assault on school property recorded and distributed falls under several disciplinary categories, not to mention potential legal issues." She adjusted her glasses. "What do you want to happen here, Maya?" The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on being heard I hadn't fully considered what came next. "I want to feel safe at school," I said finally. "I want consequences for what they did, and I want it to stop happening to other students too." She nodded. "Fair requests, all of them. Principal Wagner will need to be involved, as will your parents." My stomach tightened. "My parents don't believe me. They think I'm clumsy and jealous." Dr. Martinez's expression didn't change. "They will believe the video and they will believe me. I've been dealing with family dynamics in these situations for 20 years. She checked her calendar. "I'm calling an emergency meeting tomorrow morning 8 a.m. You, your parents, Principal Wagner, and myself. Liam and his parents will meet separately, as will your sister, and after I've spoken with everyone I'll determine appropriate next steps." I left her office with a formal letter requesting my parents' presence at the morning meeting, my steps lighter despite the weight of what was coming. That evening I handed the letter to my mother as she prepared dinner. "What's this?" she asked, wiping her hands on a dishcloth. "A meeting request from the superintendent," I said simply. "It's important." She frowned as she read it. "A disciplinary issue? Maya, what have you done?" I met her eyes. "It's not about what I've done, it's about what was done to me." Before she could respond the front door opened, my father arriving home, Vanessa right behind him chattering about debate team victory. Dinner was strained, my parents exchanging worried glances, Vanessa oblivious, scrolling through her phone between bites. I ate quietly, letting the tension build naturally without feeding it. After dinner my father caught me in the hallway. What's this meeting about, Maya? His voice low, concerned. The truth, I said simply, just the truth. He started to say something else, but I continued to my room, closed the door, sat on my bed and waited. My phone buzzed with texts from Vanessa demanding to know what I'd done, her tone shifting from annoyed to concerned to threatening. I didn't respond. Just silenced my phone and pulled out my journal, writing until my hand cramped. Morning arrived with a different quality of light, sharper, somehow more defined. I dressed in layers, a button-down shirt over a t-shirt with a light jacket, easier to manage with the cast, my hair pulled back neatly. At breakfast the silence was heavy. My parents dressed for work but distracted, Vanessa surprisingly subdued, as if sensing something had shifted. The drive to school was tense, no one speaking until we pulled into the administration parking lot. My father turning off the engine but not moving. Maya, whatever this is about, I hope you've thought it through. I nodded once. I have, Dad, more than you know. The meeting room was small but formal, a rectangular table with chairs arranged around it. Dr. Martinez already seated, Principal Wagner looking uncomfortable beside her, his tie slightly crooked, his usual confidence dimmed. My parents sat on either side of me, across from the administrators, exchanging tense smiles and handshakes. Dr. Martinez opened a folder. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice professional. We're here to discuss a serious incident involving Maya. Principal Wagner shifted in his seat. I'm sure whatever misunderstanding has occurred, we can sort it out quickly. Dr. Martinez gave him a look that silenced him immediately. This isn't a misunderstanding, Mr. Wagner, this is assault. She turned her laptop around, pressed play, and the video began. Liam grabbing my wrist, the twist, the crack, my face contorting in pain. Vanessa's laughter clear as she narrated. Look at her face, oh my God, she's not even fighting back, such a doormat. My mother gasped, hand flying to her mouth. My father's face drained of color. Principal Wagner stared at the screen, his expression unreadable. When it ended, Dr. Martinez closed the laptop. This occurred on school property during school hours, was recorded and has been shared among students. She looked directly at my parents. Your daughter's arm wasn't broken in a track accident, it was broken deliberately by Liam Walker while your other daughter Vanessa recorded it. The silence that followed was absolute. My mother's voice, when it came, was small. Maya, why didn't you tell us? I looked at her directly. I did. You told me I was clumsy and making things up. My father rubbed his face. We didn't know, we thought. He trailed off, unable to finish. Principal Wagner cleared his throat. This is obviously disturbing, but we should hear from all parties before jumping to conclusions. Dr. Martinez's gaze hardened. I've already spoken with Liam Walker this morning, Mr. Wagner. He admitted to the assault, claimed it was a joke that went too far. His parents are meeting with our legal counsel as we speak. She turned to my parents. You have options here, both disciplinary and legal. The school has failed in its duty to provide a safe environment. My father's voice was hollow. Our own daughter watched this happen, filmed it. Dr. Martinez nodded. Vanessa is waiting in another room. We'll be speaking with her next. My mother began to cry quietly beside me. I didn't reach for her hand, didn't offer comfort, just sat straight-backed and still, letting everything unfold. Principal Wagner attempted damage control. We take bullying very seriously at Westlake, perhaps a mediation session between the sisters. Dr. Martinez cut him off. This isn't bullying, Mr. Wagner, this is assault. It's a criminal matter as well as a disciplinary one. She turned to me. Maya, you've shown remarkable courage in bringing this forward. For the first time that morning I spoke. What happens now? Dr. Martinez outlined the immediate steps: Liam's suspension pending expulsion proceedings, a formal investigation into the school's handling of the incident, a safety plan for my return to classes. By the time we left the meeting 2 hours later, everything had changed. My parents shell-shocked, Principal Wagner defensive and diminished, Dr. Martinez resolute. In the parking lot my mother tried to take my hand. I let her, though I didn't squeeze back. We didn't know, she whispered, we should have seen it. My father stood a few feet away looking lost. Where's Vanessa? He asked. No one in particular. Still inside, I answered. Dr. Martinez is talking to her. The drive home was silent, but different from the silence of the morning. This wasn't tension, it was reckoning. At home my father paced the living room, checking his phone every few minutes. My mother sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. I went to my room, closed the door, and finally allowed myself to feel everything: the fear, the pain, the vindication, the grief. It washed over me in waves until I was empty. Hours later the front door opened, voices raised. Vanessa was home. I stayed in my room listening as she defended herself. It was just a joke, it got out of hand. I didn't know he would actually hurt her. My father's voice unusually sharp. We saw the video, Vanessa, you were laughing while your sister was in pain. My mother's voice breaking. How could you do this to Maya? To us? I opened my door, stepped into the hallway. Vanessa saw me first. Her face a mixture of anger and fear. You, she hissed, you had to ruin everything, didn't you? My mother stepped between us. Vanessa, that's enough. But I moved forward, calm, determined. I didn't ruin anything, Vanessa, you did this yourself. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. Princeton won't care about this, they already accepted me. My father shook his head. They rescinded your acceptance. Dr. Martinez called them, as is her legal obligation when reporting violence. Vanessa's face collapsed. What? No, she can't do that. You have to fix this. I watched her. The sister who had always seemed so powerful now diminished, not by revenge but by consequences. No one's fixing this, Vanessa, I said quietly. Not this time. She looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time. I hate you, she whispered, but there was no power in it, just desperation. I didn't respond, didn't need to, just turned and went back to my room, closed the door and let her words dissolve into nothing. The next day I didn't go to school, neither did Vanessa. We moved through the house like ghosts, passing without touching. My parents shell-shocked, drifting between rooms, making phone calls, speaking in hushed voices. By afternoon, news had spread. Olivia texted asking if I was okay. Jamie sent a simple message, "Thank you for being brave." Other messages followed from students I barely knew, some supportive, some curious, some accusing me of overreacting. I answered only Olivia and Jamie, the rest could wait. That evening my parents called a family meeting. We sat in the living room, Vanessa sullen on the edge of the sofa, my parents looking older than they had days before. My father spoke first. "We've made some decisions," he said, his voice strained. "Vanessa will be transferring to your aunt's in Colorado to finish the school year. She'll apply to colleges again next year." Vanessa didn't argue, just stared at the floor. My mother continued, "Maya, we've failed you. We didn't listen. We didn't see. We're so sorry." The apology hung in the air between us. I didn't rush to accept it, didn't dismiss it either, just nodded, acknowledging the words without necessarily believing them yet. Liam's parents called. My father added, "They want to meet to discuss dropping any potential charges." I looked up at that. "What did you tell them?" My mother's voice was firm for the first time in memory. "We told them that decision isn't ours, it's yours." The weight of that statement settled around me. They were giving me agency, giving me a voice. "I need to think about it," I said finally. Not out of uncertainty, but because I wanted them to understand that my decisions mattered, that they couldn't be rushed. Vanessa spoke then, her voice small. "I didn't think you would break your arm. I just wanted to scare you a little, make you back off." I looked at my sister. "Back off from what, Vanessa? I was already invisible. What more did you want?" She had no answer for that, just looked away, tears finally breaking through her perfect composure. My parents watched the exchange, helpless witnesses to a relationship fractured, perhaps beyond repair. After dinner I called Dr. Martinez, updated her on the family decisions, asked about returning to school. "We've implemented some changes," she assured me. "Principal Wagner has been placed on administrative leave pending review. We've brought in a temporary administrator and Liam remains suspended. His expulsion hearing is next week." Sleep came easier that night, not peaceful exactly, but without the weight of secrets. The next morning I woke early, dressed carefully, and asked my father to drive me to school. "Are you sure?" he asked, concern evident. I nodded. "I can't hide forever." The school looked different, somehow smaller, less intimidating. Students parted as I walked through the main entrance, whispers following like shadows, but I didn't hunch, didn't hurry, just walked straight, backed unsteady to my first class. Miss Parker, the English teacher, smiled as I entered. "Welcome back, Maya," she said warmly. A few students nodded, some looked away uncomfortably. By lunchtime the pattern was clear. The school had divided those who supported me, those who supported Liam and Vanessa, and those who just wanted to stay out of it entirely. I sat with Olivia and Jamie, both quiet, both watchful. Jamie spoke first. "Everyone's seen the video now." Olivia nodded, and the interim principal called an assembly about assault and reporting violence. Jamie pushed her salad around her plate. "Some people are saying you overreacted, that it was just horsing around." I set down my fork. "Breaking someone's arm isn't horsing around, neither is filming it and laughing." Olivia reached across the table, squeezed my good hand. "We know, most people know too, they're just scared to say it." I squeezed back. I was scared too, but being scared and being silent didn't protect me. It won't protect anyone. After school I walked home alone, but not lonely. The air seemed clearer, somehow my steps lighter. Despite everything that had happened I felt more present, more real than I had in years. At home I found my mother in the kitchen preparing dinner with unusual care. "I took the rest of the week off," she explained, "thought we could use the time together." I nodded, set my bag down. "Where's Vanessa?" My mother's hand stilled. "Packing. Your father's driving her to Colorado on Friday." I helped with dinner as best I could with one arm. The silence between us not comfortable yet, but no longer suffocating. When my father came home he joined us, setting the table, asking about my day, listening, actually listening to my answers. After dinner I went to my room, journal open, recording everything, when a knock came at my door. "Come in," I called, expecting my mother. It was Vanessa. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, not entering, not speaking, just looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Can I come in?" she asked finally. I nodded. She took 2 steps inside, stopped. "I'm leaving day after tomorrow." I nodded again. "I know." She twisted her hands together. "I didn't mean for this to happen, not like this." I closed my journal. "What did you mean to happen, Vanessa?" She sat on the edge of my bed, careful to maintain distance. "I don't know, I wanted everything. You were the good one, the quiet one, the one who never caused problems, and then suddenly You were speaking up in class, getting noticed for your writing. Mr. Bennett told Mom you might get that scholarship I'd applied for, and I couldn't stand it. Her honesty surprised me. So you decided to break my arm? She flinched. No, that wasn't supposed to happen. Liam took it too far. We were just going to scare you a little. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, saw past the perfect exterior to the insecurity beneath. You know what's sad, Vanessa? I never wanted your spotlight. I just wanted to exist beside you, not behind you, not beneath you, just beside you. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be. If I'm not the best, the brightest, the one everyone sees first. For the first time I felt something like pity. That's your journey to figure out, not mine. She nodded, stood to leave, paused at the door. For what it's worth, I am sorry about your arm. I didn't say it was okay because it wasn't. Instead I said, I hope you find what you're looking for in Colorado. After she left, I sat in silence, feeling something shift within me, not forgiveness exactly, but release. I was no longer defined by her shadow, no longer measuring myself against her light. I was simply Maya, becoming visible on my own terms. The morning Vanessa left for Colorado dawned gray and misty, fitting somehow for endings and beginnings. I watched from my bedroom window as my father loaded her suitcases into the car, her shoulders hunched against more than just the weather. She glanced up, caught me watching. Our eyes met across the distance, a moment of recognition without resolution. Then she ducked into the passenger seat and they drove away. My mother came to stand beside me, her presence tentative. She'll be gone until summer at least, she said quietly. Longer if she chooses to stay for college applications. I nodded, not trusting my voice, feeling a complicated mixture of relief and hollowness. What happens now? My mother asked, her hand hovering near but not touching my shoulder. I turned to face her. Now we learn how to see each other differently. She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. I'd like that very much. That afternoon I had my first session with Dr. Winters, the therapist. Dr. Martinez had recommended her office warm with soft lighting and plants thriving on every surface. Maya, she said my name like it mattered. Tell me what brought you here. So I did, not just about the broken arm but about the years of invisibility, the quiet erasure, the way I'd learned to make myself small to avoid disturbing the family ecosystem. She listened without interruption, her eyes kind but not pitying. When I finished, she set down her notepad. You've been carrying this for a long time, she observed. How does it feel to put it down? I considered the question. Lighter, I said finally, but also uncertain, like I've been holding my breath for so long I'm not sure I remember how to breathe normally. She smiled. That's a perfect analogy, and relearning to breathe takes time, just like healing your arm requires patience. Your heart and mind need the same. I left that first session feeling exposed but also strangely hopeful, like something long dormant was beginning to stir. The weekend passed quietly, my mother trying too hard, cooking elaborate meals, asking questions she'd never bothered with before. My father more subdued, his occasional glances carrying the weight of recognition and regret. Monday brought another milestone, my return to track practice, not to participate yet but to reconnect with the team. Coach Miller greeted me warmly. Good to have you back, Maya. We've missed your determination. Her words surprised me. I hadn't realized anyone had noticed my absence. Olivia fell into step beside me as we walked toward the bleachers. Things have changed since you've been gone, she said, nodding toward a group of girls warming up. Jamie started a support group for students who've experienced bullying. The administration actually gave them a classroom to meet in. I watched Jamie leading stretches, her usual shyness replaced with quiet purpose. How many students? I asked. Olivia smiled. 15 at the first meeting, 23 at the last. People are talking. Maya, really talking? We sat on the metal bleachers watching practice unfold, Olivia filling me in on the changes sweeping through Westlake, the interim principal's zero-tolerance policy, the new anonymous reporting system, the required training for all coaches and teachers. Liam's expulsion hearing is tomorrow, she said finally. Are you going? I nodded. Dr. Martinez asked me to speak. I said yes. Olivia squeezed my hand. That takes courage. I looked at her. Not as much as you might think. Turns out having a voice is addictive. Once you start, it's hard to stop. That evening I prepared my statement for the hearing, sitting at my desk, journal open, casting and recasting sentences until they reflected not just what had happened but why it mattered. My mother knocked once with a mug of tea. May I come in? I nodded. She set the mug beside me, hovering uncertainly. Is that for tomorrow? I nodded again. She hesitated. Would it be okay if I read it? The request surprised me. I considered it, then handed her the pages. She sat on the edge of my bed, reading slowly, carefully. I watched her face change, expressions flickering, pain, recognition, sorrow. When she finished, she looked up, eyes wet. I never knew you felt this way, never saw how we all, parents, teachers, everyone, contributed to making you feel invisible. She handed the pages back. It's powerful, Maya, you're powerful. The words hung between us, not quite healing the fractures but acknowledging their existence, which felt like an essential first step. The expulsion hearing was held in a conference room at the district office's austere and official. 5 board members Seated behind a long table, Dr. Martinez to one side, Liam and his parents opposite them, his father in an expensive suit, his mother clutching a designer handbag, Liam himself subdued in a button-down shirt, hair neatly combed, so different from his usual careless swagger. I sat with my parents, our own arrangement, a physical representation of how much had changed, my father protective, my mother vigilant, neither taking their eyes off Liam. The proceedings began formally, statements read, evidence presented, the video played again, its impact undiminished by repetition. Liam's father argued for leniency. A moment of poor judgment shouldn't define a young man's future, he insisted. Liam has already learned his lesson. The board remained impassive, Dr. Martinez methodical as she outlined the violation of multiple school policies, the premeditated nature of the attack, the recording and distribution of the video. Then it was my turn to speak. I approached the podium, cast still on my arm, a visible reminder of what had happened but not defining me, not anymore. My name is Maya Reyes, I began, my voice steady. 6 weeks ago Liam Walker broke my arm while my sister recorded it. They laughed as I crumpled to the floor. They shared the video like it was entertainment. I paused, let the words settle. But this isn't just about a broken bone, it's about a broken system that taught me to be invisible and taught Liam that he was untouchable. I looked directly at him, saw something flicker across his face, discomfort, recognition, shame. For years I believed that staying quiet, keeping my head down would keep me safe, but silence isn't safety, it's surrender. The room was completely still, every face turned toward me. What Liam did wasn't a mistake or poor judgment, it was deliberate, it was cruel, and it was part of a pattern that everyone ignored until it couldn't be ignored anymore. I set down my notes. I'm not asking for punishment out of revenge, I'm asking for accountability, because without it nothing changes. Liam doesn't change, the school doesn't change, and the next quiet student becomes the next target. I returned to my seat, heart pounding but head high. My father reached for my hand, squeezed once. Liam's expulsion was announced 30 minutes later, his father immediately mentioning appeals and lawyers, his mother crying quietly, Liam himself saying nothing, just staring at the floor. Outside in the bright afternoon sunshine, Dr. Martinez approached. You did well in there, Maya, your words made a difference. I nodded, not feeling triumphant, just resolute. What happens now? She adjusted her glasses. Now we keep working on changing the culture that allowed this to happen in the first place. Would you be interested in helping with that? The question caught me off guard. Me? How? She smiled. The Student Advisory Council needs voices like yours, people who understand what needs to change and why. Think about it, let me know. That evening at dinner, my parents asked about the hearing, listened as I recounted the proceedings, their faces reflecting pride, concern, determination. My father cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been talking. We think we should file charges against Liam through the police, not just the school district. The suggestion surprised me. Why now? My mother set down her fork. Because we should have done it immediately, because there should be consequences beyond just changing schools, because it's the right thing to do. I considered their words. I need to think about it, I said finally. This isn't about revenge for me, it's about change. My father nodded. Take all the time you need, we'll support whatever you decide. The shift in their approach was still disorienting, their deference to my choices, their willingness to listen. After the meal I retreated to my room, opened my laptop, and researched assault charges, juvenile records, consequences, and rehabilitation. The next morning I joined Jamie's support group. During lunch period 25 students gathered in Ms. Parker's classroom, sitting in a circle sharing experiences, strategies, hope. I sat quietly at first, just listening as a sophomore described being cyberbullied, a freshman talked about being excluded, a senior admitted to witnessing bullying and doing nothing. When Jamie noticed me, she smiled. Maya, would you like to share anything? All eyes turned to me. I felt the familiar urge to shrink, to disappear, but pushed against it. For years I made myself small. I began thinking if I was quiet enough, invisible enough, I'd be safe, but that strategy failed spectacularly. A few students laughed softly in recognition. What I've learned is that your voice is like a muscle, the less you use it the weaker it gets, but you can strengthen it practice by practice, word by word, until speaking your truth becomes natural. The room was silent, absorbing my words. I'm still learning, still building that strength, but I'm discovering that being seen, being heard is worth the risk. After the meeting, several students approached me offering support, sharing their own stories, asking how they could find their voices. I answered as honestly as I could, not positioning myself as an expert, just as someone a few steps further along the path. Jamie joined me as the room emptied. You should come every week, she said. People listen to you. I shook my head. They listened because what happened to me was dramatic and public, but every story in this room matters, every voice deserves to be heard. That afternoon I stayed after school working on an article for the school newspaper about the support group, about the changes happening at Westlake, about the power of speaking up. Ms. Parker had encouraged me to submit something. Your writing has always been strong, Maya, now it has purpose too. I was so absorbed in crafting sentences I didn't notice the time until the janitor knocked on the classroom door. Buildings closing soon. I packed up quickly, walked through empty hallways that no longer felt threatening, just quiet. Outside, The spring air had turned cooler, shadows lengthening across the parking lot. I was halfway to the street when I heard footsteps behind me. Turned to see Craig Walker, Liam's younger brother, approaching, his face set in hard lines. "You ruined my brother's life," he said without preamble. My heart rate quickened, but I stood my ground. "Your brother ruined his own life when he decided breaking my arm was entertainment." Craig stepped closer. "It was a joke that went too far. You didn't have to make such a big deal out of it." I felt something shift inside me, not fear, not anger, just clarity. A broken bone isn't a joke, Craig. Assault isn't a joke. Turning someone's pain into a viral video isn't a joke. He scoffed. "You were always so sensitive. Vanessa said you'd cry if someone looked at you wrong." I adjusted my backpack. Vanessa was wrong about a lot of things, so was Liam. "So are you. Sensitivity isn't weakness, Craig, and cruelty isn't strength, it's just cruelty." He seemed taken aback by my calmness, perhaps expecting tears or retreat. "Whatever, everyone knows you just did this for attention." I actually smiled at that. 6 weeks ago I would have done anything to avoid attention, but I'm learning that some things matter more than comfort, more than fitting in, more than being liked. I turned to leave, paused, looked back at him. "I hope you learn that too before you follow your brother's path." I walked away, back straight pace, steady, feeling his eyes on me but not turning around, not running. The confrontation left me shaky, but also strangely empowered. I had faced my fear, spoken my truth, stood my ground. 3 months ago I would have crumbled. Now I was building something stronger from the broken pieces. At home I found my mother in the garden, kneeling among spring blooms, her hands in the soil. She looked up as I approached. "How was your day?" I sat beside her on the grass, told her about the support group, the article, the encounter with Craig. Watched her face shift from concern to pride. "You're not the same girl you were before," she observed, pruning dead leaves from a rosebush. "No," I agreed, "I'm not." We worked together in comfortable silence for a while before she spoke again. "I've been thinking about why we didn't see what was happening with you and Vanessa, why we let things get so unbalanced." She set down her trowel, looked at me directly. "We failed you, Maya, in so many ways for so many years." I picked up a fallen petal, examined its soft texture. "Yes, you did," I said honestly, "but I failed myself too, by believing I deserved less, by accepting invisibility as my natural state." She wiped soil from her hands. "How do we fix this?" The question was sincere, vulnerable. I considered it carefully. "We start by seeing each other as we are, not as we wish the other would be. We speak honestly even when it's uncomfortable. We listen, actually listen, and we give each other room to change, to grow, to make mistakes and learn from them." She nodded, tears gathering. "I'd like to try that." I reached for her hand briefly, a connection still tentative but genuine. "Me too." That evening I finished my article for the school paper, revised it twice until the words felt right, then submitted it to Ms. Parker via email before opening a new document and beginning a letter to Vanessa. Not an accusation, not a condemnation, just an honest accounting of my experience, our relationship, what might come next. I didn't know if I'd send it, but writing it felt necessary. The following week brought my first meeting with the Student Advisory Council. 12 students from different grades, different social circles, different experiences, all focused on one goal: making Westlake safer, more inclusive, more equitable. The interim principal, Dr. Chen, led the discussion, soliciting ideas, encouraging debate, challenging assumptions. I spoke when I had something to contribute, listened when others shared, found myself drawn to the possibilities of systematic change. "What about a peer mentoring program?" I suggested during a discussion about supporting vulnerable students, not just for academics but for social navigation, someone to check and regularly provide guidance, help new or isolated students connect. Dr. Chen nodded, made notes. "How would we identify mentors?" I considered this. "Look for students who demonstrate empathy, reliability, consistency, not just high achievers or popular kids, but those who show up, who pay attention, who already help others informally." After the meeting, Jamie caught up with me in the hallway. "That mentoring idea was brilliant, I'd sign up for that." I smiled. "I think you already did unofficially with the support group." She blushed. "That's different. I just wanted people to have somewhere to go, somewhere they felt heard." I touched her arm briefly. "That's exactly what makes you a mentor, Jamie, seeing what others need and creating space for it." Her smile was shy but pleased. "I never thought of it that way." Days blended into weeks, my cast removed, replaced with a brace, physical therapy exercises becoming part of my routine, the pain fading gradually, both physical and emotional, though neither disappeared completely. My parents and I established new patterns: family dinners with actual conversation, weekend outings that weren't centered around Vanessa's activities, therapy sessions, both individual and family, as we navigated our changing relationships. Vanessa called occasionally, her voice subdued. Life in Colorado different, challenging. Her aunt less impressed by her achievements, more focused on her character development. "They make me volunteer at a homeless shelter," she complained during one call, "like actual work, serving food, cleaning bathrooms." I didn't offer sympathy. "Maybe it's good to do something that doesn't come with applause or recognition." She was quiet for a moment. "Maybe I don't know who I am without an audience." The admission surprised me, its vulnerability, its honesty. "That's something worth figuring out," I said, not unkindly. "We weren't friends, not yet, maybe not ever, but we were finding a way to exist in each other's orbits without destruction. At school, the changes continued, small but significant. Jamie support group growing, Dr. Chen implementing new policies, my article in the school paper generating discussion letters to the editor, some supportive, some critical, all engaged. One Tuesday. During lunch, Olivia slid a printout across the table. You should apply for this, she said, tapping a highlighted section, summer journalism program at State University, 2 weeks intensive training, published work at the end. I scanned the information, felt interest spark. The deadline's tomorrow, I noted. She grinned. I already asked Ms. Parker for a recommendation letter, she said. Yes, immediately. I folded the paper, tucked it into my notebook. Thank you for seeing this, for seeing me. That evening I worked on the application essay, the prompt asking about a moment that changed my perspective. I wrote about the broken arm, yes, but more about what came after, finding my voice, discovering that speaking up created ripples beyond myself, learning that one truth told could inspire others to do the same. My mother proofread it for me, her eyes widening as she read. This is beautiful, Maya, powerful. I submitted the application the next day, not expecting anything but proud of myself for trying it. Physical therapy, my range of motion improving steadily, the therapist noting my progress. You're healing faster than expected, she observed, guiding my arm through gentle rotations. Determination makes a difference. I smiled at that. I'm learning that applies to more than just bones. At the next Student Advisory Council meeting, we presented our recommendations to the school board, a comprehensive plan for cultural change at Westlake, from curriculum adjustments to reporting systems to student leadership opportunities. I spoke about the peer mentoring program, Jamie about the support group, others about their initiatives, the board members listening attentively, Dr. Martinez nodding, occasionally making notes. When we finished, the board president leaned forward. This is impressive work, she said sincerely, thoughtful, practical, implementable. What kind of timeline are you proposing? We exchanged glances. Dr. Chen spoke. With summer approaching, we suggest beginning implementation immediately with training during break and full rollout when school resumes in fall. The board approved our proposal unanimously, Dr. Martinez catching my eye across the room, giving me a small nod of acknowledgement. Walking home that afternoon, spring fully established around me, trees leafed out, flowers blooming, air warm with promise. I felt something settle within me, not completion. The journey was ongoing, but confirmation I was on the right path. My phone buzzed with a notification. I stopped to check it, an email from State University. Congratulations on your acceptance to the summer journalism intensive. My breath caught, excitement bubbling up. I called my mother immediately. I got in, I said when she answered. The journalism program, they accepted me. Her joy matched mine. Maya, that's wonderful. Wait until your father hears, he'll be so proud. The easy way she centered my achievement, without comparison, without qualification, showed how far we'd come. That evening they took me to dinner to celebrate, my father raising his glass, to Maya finding her voice and using it to change the world. The next day at school, Ms. Parker stopped me in the hallway. Heard about your acceptance, congratulations, that's a competitive program. I thanked her. She hesitated. I also wanted to tell you the impact your article had. Several teachers have approached me about incorporating discussions about voice and agency into their curriculum. I felt warmth spread through me. Really? She nodded. Words have power, Maya, your words especially, because they're authentic, they come from lived experience. In Jamie's support group that week, attendance had swelled to 30 students. Spilling into the hallway, we moved to the library, instead sitting among bookshelves sharing stories, strategies. Hope, a freshman girl, spoke hesitantly about feeling invisible, about fading into backgrounds, about measuring her worth by others' attention. I recognized myself in her words, waited until she finished, then leaned forward. Invisibility can feel like safety, I said gently, but it's a trap, not a shelter. She looked at me, eyes wide. How do you stop disappearing? I considered the question. One word at a time, one moment at a time. You practice being seen. Start small with people you trust in spaces that feel safe, and gradually your voice gets stronger, your presence more solid, until one day you realize you're not fading anymore, you're growing. Around the circle, heads nodded in recognition, the language of erasure and emergence universally understood. That weekend I received a letter from my journalism program advisor outlining the summer curriculum, requesting preliminary topic ideas. For our final project, I sat at my desk brainstorming possibilities: systemic bullying, peer pressure, social media influence, the power of personal narrative, each connecting back to the central theme: finding and using your voice. My mother knocked with tea. Working on your program already? I nodded, showed her my notes. She sat beside me. You know what strikes me? You're not just writing about finding your voice, you're helping others find theirs too. The observation lingered with me through the evening, crystallizing into clarity as I prepared for bed. I wasn't just telling my story, I was creating space for others to tell theirs, building bridges between isolated experiences, fostering connection through shared vulnerability. This wasn't about my broken arm, Liam's punishment, Vanessa's exile. It was about transformation, individual and collective. The power of truth spoken aloud, the ripple effects of courage. I opened my journal, wrote one sentence, sometimes breaking. is how we learn to rebuild stronger. The words glowed on the page, simple but true, like the first light of dawn after a long darkness. I had been broken, yes, but from those fractures new strength was emerging, not despite the breaking but because of it, not perfect, not finished, but authentic, growing stronger with each word, each day, each small act of courage. June arrived with surprising warmth, both in temperature and in the gradual thawing of frozen relationships. My parents and I settled into new patterns of interaction, not perfect but increasingly authentic, each of us learning to see the others as they were, not as we wished them to be. The school year was winding down, final exams looming, summer plans taking shape, the journalism program at State University becoming more real with each preparatory email. On a Tuesday afternoon, I received an unexpected message from Dr. Martinez requesting a meeting the following day. Nothing concerning, she assured me, quite the opposite. Curious, I arrived at her office promptly at the appointed time, found her sorting through end-of-year reports, a cup of coffee steaming beside her computer. Maya, thank you for coming, she gestured to the chair opposite her desk. I wanted to discuss something with you before making it official. She handed me a folder. I opened it, found a formal letter with the district letterhead, Westlake High School Student Leadership Award, my name printed beneath the title. The board unanimously voted to create this annual award, Dr. Martinez explained, recognizing a student who demonstrates exceptional courage in advocating for positive change. You're the first recipient. I stared at the letter, emotions colliding. Surprise, gratitude, discomfort, I don't know what to say. Dr. Martinez smiled, you don't have to say anything right now. The presentation will be at graduation if you're comfortable accepting it publicly. I considered this the visibility, the symbolism. Who chose me? She leaned back in her chair. The initial nomination came from Jamie Chen, but it was supported by several teachers, the student council, and quite a few of your peers. The decision wasn't difficult. I traced the embossed letterhead with my finger. I wasn't looking for recognition. The best leaders rarely are, she replied, which is precisely why they deserve it. I folded the letter carefully, returned it to the folder. I'll accept it, but I'd like to acknowledge the others, especially Jamie, the support group, all the students who've spoken up. Dr. Martinez nodded. We can arrange that. Will you prepare brief remarks? I agreed, thanked her for the opportunity, left her office feeling strangely light, like I was expanding beyond old boundaries, growing into something new. That evening I shared the news with my parents, watched their faces bloom with pride, genuine, untainted by comparison. This is wonderful, Maya, my mother said, squeezing my hand. My father nodded. Well deserved, completely well deserved. We celebrated with takeout from my favorite restaurant, conversation flowing easily, topics ranging from my upcoming journalism program to my father's work projects to my mother's newly discovered interest in community gardening. Later, alone in my room, I began drafting my acceptance remarks, searching for words that would honor not just my journey but the collective awakening happening at Westlake, the culture shift, the growing awareness, the emerging voices. I wrote late into the night, erasing, revising, struggling to capture something elusive yet essential, the transformation that occurs when silence breaks, when truth emerges, when individuals connect through shared vulnerability. The next morning I received an email from Vanessa, unexpected, my heart quickening as I opened it. Heard about your award, she wrote. Aunt Susan saw it in the district newsletter. Congratulations. The message continued, describing her life in Colorado, the therapy she'd begun, the community service hours she was completing, the college applications she was preparing. The final paragraph caught me off guard. I've been thinking about what happened, about my part in it all. I don't have the right words yet, but I'm working on finding them. I hope someday we can talk, really talk about everything. I read the message twice, uncertain how to respond, feeling the complexity of our relationship, its damage, its possibility. After consideration, I wrote back, thanking her for the congratulations, sharing brief updates about school, the journalism program, our parents, accepting her tentative olive branch without promising more than I could deliver. I hope you find the words, I concluded. When you do, I'll listen. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was an opening, a crack in a door long closed. At school, Jamie caught me between classes, her excitement palpable. You're getting the leadership award. Dr. Martinez told me yesterday. I've been bursting to talk to you about it. I smiled at her enthusiasm. I hear you nominated me, thank you for that. She shook her head. Don't thank me, you earned it, more than earned it. You changed things, Maya, not just for yourself, for all of us. We walked toward the cafeteria together, discussing the upcoming support group meeting, the peer mentoring program taking shape for fall, the slowly shifting atmosphere at Westlake. Later in English class, Ms. Parker returned our final essays, mine marked with an A and a note. Your writing has always been strong, but now it has heart, purpose, authenticity. Consider submitting this to the school literary magazine. I traced the words, felt their truth, not just about my writing but about me. I'd always been capable, but now I was connected, not just competent but purposeful, the difference subtle but profound. After school, I met with the yearbook committee. They'd requested an interview to accompany a feature on student-led initiatives at Westlake. The editor Sarah, a senior I barely knew, began with standard questions about the support group, the advisory council, my experiences, the conversation flowing easily until she paused, looked down at her notes. Maya, can I ask you something off the record? I nodded, curious. She continued, before all this happened, before your arm, I don't think we ever spoke. I don't think I really saw you. How did you become so visible? The question surprised me with its directness, its insight. I considered my answer carefully. I think I was always here, always had thoughts, opinions, feelings, but I buried them, believing they didn't matter, that I didn't matter. I shifted in my seat, collecting my thoughts. Breaking my arm was the catalyst, but the real change came after, when I decided my voice deserved to be heard, when I stopped waiting for permission to exist fully in my own life. Sarah nodded, writing quickly. Do you think anyone can do that, become visible? I smiled. I think everyone is already visible, just waiting to be seen, sometimes by others but mostly by themselves. She looked up from her notebook. That's going in the article, if that's okay, it's important. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words, the responsibility of visibility, the power of recognition given and received. That weekend I finalized my acceptance speech for the leadership award, practiced it for my parents, watched their expressions shift from pride to something deeper, more complex, my mother wiping away tears, my father clearing his throat repeatedly. Is it too much? I asked, uncertain. They both shook their heads, my father finding his voice first. It's perfect, Maya, it's truth, and that's always uncomfortable but necessary. Sunday brought an unexpected visitor. Dr. Winters, my therapist, had suggested a session with Liam and his parents as part of my healing process. After consideration, I'd agreed, though with significant reservations. They arrived precisely at the appointed time, Liam's father in another expensive suit, his mother in subdued colors, Liam himself pale, uncertain, a shadow of his former confidence. We sat in our living room, the atmosphere thick with tension, unspoken accusations, my parents flanking me, protective. Dr. Winters facilitated, keeping the conversation focused on accountability, healing, future paths forward. Liam spoke first, clearly rehearsed. I want to apologize for what I did. There's no excuse. I was showing off, being cruel. I didn't think about consequences, about hurting you. I'm sorry. The words hung in the air, neither rejected nor accepted, just acknowledged. I studied his face, searching for sincerity, finding complexity, fear, regret, shame, embarrassment. What are you learning from this? I asked finally, the question surprising everyone, including myself. Liam blinked. What? I leaned forward slightly. You broke my arm, filmed it, shared it, laughed about it. Now you're expelled, facing possible charges. What are you learning? He looked down at his hands. That actions have consequences, that I can't just do whatever I want, that hurting people isn't funny even when others laugh. His father interjected. Liam is suffering significant consequences. Maya, his college prospects are damaged, his reputation. My mother's voice cut through, firm, unwavering. With all due respect, Mr. Walker, your son caused physical harm to our daughter. This isn't about his reputation, it's about his character. Liam's mother dabbed at her eyes. We're getting him counseling. He's doing community service. We're trying to help him understand what he did. I listened to the adults debate consequences, rehabilitation, forgiveness, justice, felt the weight of decision pressing on me. After consideration, I spoke. I've been thinking about whether to press charges beyond the school discipline. The room quieted, all eyes turning to me. I've decided not to. Liam's parents exhaled visibly, but I continued, not because what you did doesn't deserve legal consequences, but because I believe transformation is possible if you're truly committed to changing. I looked directly at Liam. This isn't forgiveness. Not yet. That has to be earned through consistent actions, not words, but it's a chance, a single chance, to become someone different, someone better. He nodded solemnly. I understand, thank you. His gratitude felt premature, inadequate, but I accepted it as a beginning point, not an endpoint. Dr. Winters guided the conversation toward closure, concrete steps. Liam would take therapy, community service. Reflection. After they left, my parents and I sat in lingering silence, processing the interaction. My father finally speaking. Are you sure about not pressing charges? You have every right to. I nodded. I'm sure this isn't about minimizing what happened, it's about choosing where to put my energy. I don't want to spend months in court hearings reliving the day. I want to focus on building something new. My mother reached for my hand. You continue to amaze me, Maya, your strength, your wisdom, your compassion. I squeezed her fingers. I'm still figuring it all out, still making mistakes, still learning, but I'm doing it as myself, not as someone's shadow, not as an afterthought. That's the difference. We sat together, the afternoon light slanting through windows, illuminating, dust motes dancing in the air, a family reshaping itself around truth, painful, beautiful, necessary. The final weeks of school accelerated, graduation preparations intensifying, exams consuming energy, the support group holding its last meeting of the year, a bittersweet gathering filled with reflection, gratitude, anticipation. Jamie had organized certificates for everyone who'd participated, creating a small ceremony of recognition. Being seen matters, she said as she distributed them. Having your experiences validated matters. You all matter. I watched her move around the circle, her confidence grown, her purpose clarified, remembered the shy girl who'd approached me months ago with a video file, hand trembling, voice uncertain. Transformation wasn't limited to me, it was happening everywhere. In ripples and waves, as one voice encouraged another, as vulnerability created space for courage, as silence gave way to expression. Graduation day arrived, sunny, warm, perfect for outdoor ceremonies. I dressed carefully, a new dress my mother had helped select, my arm fully healed though sometimes aching in cold weather, a physical reminder of breaking and mending. Behind the stage, waiting for the ceremony to begin, I felt anticipation buzzing through me, not nervousness exactly, but awareness of significance, this moment, this recognition, this opportunity to speak truth to a larger audience. The ceremony preceded traditionally speeches by the principal, the valedictorian, a school board member, presentation of diplomas, applause, cheers, photographs. Then Dr. Martinez approached the podium. Before we conclude, I have the honor of presenting a new award, the Westlake High School Student Leadership Award, recognizing exceptional courage in advocating for positive change. She continued, describing the award, its significance, its future as an annual tradition. This year's recipient demonstrated remarkable bravery in confronting harmful behaviors, systemic failures, and cultural problems while simultaneously creating supportive structures for other students. Her courage has transformed our school community. Maya Reyes, please join me. The applause was immediate, surprising in its volume, its enthusiasm. I walked across the stage, steady, deliberate, accepted the plaque Dr. Martinez offered, shook her hand, stepped to the microphone. Thank you for this honor, I began, my voice clear, carrying across the field. But I don't stand here alone. This recognition belongs to everyone who's found the courage to speak truth, to break silence, to choose visibility over erasure. I paused, scanning the audience, finding familiar faces. Jamie, Olivia, my parents, teachers, supporters. 6 months ago I was broken, literally and figuratively. My arm shattered, my voice silenced, my existence diminished. I believed that staying quiet, staying small, staying invisible would keep me safe. The audience was silent, attentive. I was wrong. Silence isn't safety, it's surrender. Invisibility isn't protection, it's prison. I shifted the plaque in my hands, felt its weight, its significance. What I've learned through pain, through healing, through speaking up is that our voices matter, all of our voices, not just the loud ones, not just the confident ones, not just the privileged ones. Every single voice contributes to our collective story, our shared experience, our common humanity. My eyes found Jamie in the crowd, gave her a small nod of acknowledgement. This award recognizes my journey, but it also celebrates Jamie Chen, who created a support group for students who felt unseen. It honors Olivia Davis, who stood beside me when standing was hardest. It acknowledges every student who's shared their story in that group, every teacher who's created space for authentic expression, every administrator who's listened and acted. I took a deep breath, centered myself in the moment. Breaking isn't always bad, sometimes it's how the light gets in, sometimes it's how we learn to rebuild stronger, sometimes it's the first step toward becoming who we're meant to be. The silence deepened as my words settled. My arm healed, but more importantly, I healed, not back to who I was, but forward into who I'm becoming, someone visible, vocal, present, unafraid to take up space, unafraid to be seen. I concluded with simplicity, directness. This is my wish for all of us, that we find our voices, use them with intention, and listen to others with genuine attention, because a community where everyone is seen, heard, valued, that's not just a better school, that's a better world. Thank you. The applause erupted, thunderous, sustained. I stepped back from the microphone, blinking in the bright sunlight, feeling something settle within me, a certainty, a grounding, a belonging, not to someone else's story but to my own. After the ceremony, amid hugs, photographs, congratulations, my parents approached, pride evident in their expressions, my father carrying a small wrapped package. We have something for you, my mother said, a graduation gift but also a recognition. I unwrapped it carefully, found a journal bound in soft leather, my name embossed on the cover, inside an inscription, for Maya, whose voice changes worlds, whose courage inspires, whose truth illuminates, may your stories always find the light. Tears pricked, unexpected welcome, thank you, I whispered. They embraced me together, a family reconfigured by truth, damaged by silence, healed by voice, imperfect, evolving, authentic. Later at the graduation party Jamie hosted in her backyard, students gathered in celebratory clusters. I circulated between groups, accepting congratulations, offering encouragement, making connections, preparing to pass the torch as I moved toward college, new adventures, different challenges. Olivia found me near the refreshment table. So journalism program starts next week, are you ready? I nodded, sipping lemonade, excited, nervous, ready to learn more about crafting stories that matter. She smiled, you're already doing that, Maya, every day with how you live. The observation touched me deeply, reinforced my growing understanding that storytelling wasn't limited to words on pages, it encompassed actions, choices, presence, the narratives we embodied through our lives. As the party wound down, the summer evening stretching long and golden, I sat with Jamie on her porch swing, watching fireflies emerge, blinking in the gathering dusk. I can't believe how much has changed since winter, she mused, the whole school feels different. I nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Change happens like that, sometimes glacially slow, then suddenly immediate, like pressure building, invisible until the moment of transformation. She turned to face me. What will happen when you go to college? Will everything revert back? The question held genuine concern. I considered it carefully. Some things might, the natural cycle of institutional memory, but not everything, not the policies, not the programs, not the awareness. Those will remain and grow if people like you continue the work. She nodded, determination setting her features. We will, the support group, the peer mentoring, the advisory council, they're all continuing. I squeezed her hand briefly. That's how change becomes permanent, not through one person's efforts, but through community commitment, collective action, shared purpose. We sat in comfortable silence, watching darkness gather, stars emerging, pinpricks of light in vast darkness, each small but significant part of a larger constellation, just as our individual voices created patterns of meaning together. The journalism program began the following week. Intensive, immersive, transformative, professors, working journalists, guest speakers pushing us to find stories that mattered, to craft narratives with integrity, to amplify voices typically marginalized or silenced. I thrived in this environment, my experiences at Westlake providing context, depth, purpose to my work, my understanding of silence and voice, invisibility and presence informing every interview, every article, every presentation. For my final project, I chose to explore student-led initiatives in local high schools, interviewing teenagers creating change in their communities, from environmental activism to mental health awareness to educational equity. One interview particularly moved me, a quiet sophomore who'd established a lunch group for immigrant students struggling with language and cultural barriers. I was invisible when I first came here, he explained, not because people were cruel, but because they didn't know how to see me. I wanted to create a space where everyone is seen. His words echoed my own journey, different circumstances, similar truths, the universal human desire for recognition, connection, belonging. I crafted his story with care, attention, respect, highlighting his wisdom, courage, creativity. The completed article received acclaim from professors, mentors, peers, one editor suggesting submission to regional publications. This has resonance beyond student journalism, she noted. It speaks to fundamental human experiences. Throughout the summer I maintained contact with Jamie, Olivia, other Westlake students involved in continuing initiatives, received updates about the peer mentoring program's development, the support groups, summer sessions, the advisory councils planning for fall implementation. These connections anchored me, reminded me that transformation wasn't solitary but communal, that my story was part of a larger narrative of awakening, voice claiming space, demanding recognition. My parents evolved too, my mother joining a community advocacy group, my father volunteering with a youth mentoring program, both discovering aspects of themselves previously unexplored. Our family discussions increasingly substantive, challenging, growth-oriented. Vanessa remained in Colorado, our communication tentative, sporadic but gradually thawing. She sent occasional updates about therapy, insights, community service experiences, college applications, her tone reflective, less performative, more authentic. In late August, preparing to return to Westlake for my senior year, I sat on my bedroom floor sorting through old journals, reading entries from months, years before, tracing my evolution from invisibility to presence, from silence to voice, from fracture to wholeness, not perfect, not complete, but progressive, intentional, meaningful. I opened the leather journal my parents had given me at graduation, wrote on the first page, "Sometimes breaking is necessary for rebuilding." My arm shattered against metal, my silence shattered with it. From those fractures grew something stronger. Not despite the breaking but because of it, not erasing the pain but transforming it into purpose. I am no longer invisible, no longer silent, no longer waiting for permission to exist. I take up space, unapologetically speak truth, fearlessly stand ground firmly, not out of anger, not out of vengeance, but out of commitment to authenticity, to justice, to connection. I continued writing, filling pages with reflections, realizations, aspirations, the words flowing easily, authentically, my voice on paper matching my voice in the world, aligned, integrated, whole. When I finished, I closed the journal, traced my name on the cover, felt the embossed letters beneath my fingertips, solid, permanent, present, just like me, no longer a blur, no longer cropped from the frame, no longer an afterthought but centered, grounded, visible, ready to write my own story, one truth at a time. The day before school resumed, Jamie organized a leadership retreat for student initiative leaders, the support group facilitators, peer mentors, advisory council members, gathering at a local park for planning, team building, inspiration. Standing before them, sunshine warming my shoulders, breeze lifting my hair, I felt the weight of responsibility, the privilege of influence, the power of presence. Last year taught me something essential. I began, my voice carrying across the circle of attentive faces, that transformation isn't just personal, it's communal, that one voice encourages another, that courage is contagious, that visibility creates space for others to be seen. I looked around the circle, recognized the light in their eyes, the determination in their postures. We're not just changing a school, we're changing a culture, we're creating communities where everyone belongs, where every voice matters, where invisibility is impossible because we truly see each other. Jamie stepped forward, stood beside me, our shoulders touching, symbolic of partnership, collaboration, shared purpose. This year won't be easy, she added. Change never is, but we're not doing this alone, we're doing it together, each voice adding Strength each story creating connection each action building momentum. We distributed journals identical to mine except for the names each student receiving personalized recognition. Your voices matter, I concluded, your stories matter you. Matter. Let's create a world where everyone knows that truth. As we dispersed into smaller working groups, I found a quiet moment alone beneath a spreading oak tree, watched sunlight filter through leaves creating patterns of light and shadow on the grass, thought about journeys, beginnings, transformations. The endless possibilities that emerge when silence breaks, when voices rise, when individuals connect through shared truth. My broken arm had healed, leaving only the faintest scar, a reminder not of pain but of resilience, not of victimhood but of reclamation, not of silence but of voice, ever strengthening, ever clarifying, ever present. I wasn't invisible anymore, wasn't silent, wasn't diminished. I was Maya, fully embodied, fully voiced, fully present, taking up space, creating change, inspiring others, not through perfection but through authenticity, not through dominance but through connection, not through volume but through truth spoken clearly, consistently, courageously. The breaking had been necessary, painful, transformative, the healing not a return to previous state but an evolution into something stronger, more integrated, more powerful. I opened my journal, wrote one final sentence before rejoining the group. What they didn't understand when they tried to break me is that some things when broken don't diminish, they multiply. I closed the cover, traced my name again, smiled at the rightness of it all, the journey, the struggle, the pain, the purpose, the voice, the visibility, the truth, finally, fully, gloriously mine. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.